Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is Childcare Rockstar Radio, episode 119, featuring Christine McNally. Welcome back to the podcast, y'all. It's Kris Murray here, your host, and I'm excited to have you back to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I'm going to spend some time today with Miss Christine McNally. She has been a friend and client for a couple of years, and she owns a school called Under the Magic Pine Tree outside of Reno, Nevada. Christine is a special human, and we talk about a lot of topics, including her bid for Childcare Rockstar 2021. She was on the stage at the Childcare Success Summit telling her story, and she's a very heartfelt leader and educator in our space, and has been doing childcare for over 20 years, almost 25 actually, since 1998. So she's impacted a lot of kids, her own, the kids in her care, in her home-based daycare for years, and now in her center that she opened in 2019, and foster kids as well. So we dive into all of those topics here on today's podcast. I have had a whirlwind of a last couple of weeks. We did an Expand Your Empire challenge. So for those of you that were on there with me, and there were almost 600 owners, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in the challenge. We gave it our all. We had a blast. And then I hopped on an airplane and went to Fort Lauderdale and ran a 3.5-day meeting, one of our quarterly mastermind conferences with the Childcare Success Academy, and just an incredible time. So many insights, aha moments, and just a loving tribe that we had together on the beach in Fort Lauderdale. So, and the weather cooperated. It was difficult for some of us to get there because there were storms all over our country here in the U.S. during that time. But once they got down there, they were happy because it was 80 degrees and having some great beach time. So I'm just going to dive in. What you have to gain in being with us here in this podcast episode is an understanding of how to set yourself apart in your market, how to be a solid entrepreneur of an early learning business, and how to have a high quality program, how to take a program that was not high quality and bring your own special sauce of quality and focus of excellence to the school. And we're going to learn about how Christine did that and how to come out of this pandemic thriving. She is close to full and will be full. She's enrolling like crazy and able to retain and then attract staff. So operating with a full house, and just talking about her why and what's next for her, and all of the children that she's impacted in the various numbers of ways that I mentioned earlier. So get ready for a really fun conversation with Miss Christine McNally here at Childcare Rockstar Radio. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. This is Kris Murray, your host, and I am thrilled to introduce you today to a dear friend and a rock star in her own right, Miss Christine McNally. How are you?
Good. Doing really good. Morning.
Good. Good morning. Good afternoon. Where are you right now?
I am in my dining room in Spanish Springs, Nevada.
Okay.
I'm working from home today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what are you in the Vegas area, or where is Spanish Springs, Nevada? Tell us more.
No, I'm about 25, 30 minutes north of Reno.
Mm,
So I'm about 8.5 hours from Vegas.
that's good.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with Vegas, but yeah. Reno is a cool town. There's a lot going on there. It's fun.
Yeah, and it's close to Tahoe, which is one of my favorite places. So
Yeah, Tahoe is great.
yeah.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about your business, Christine, and just kind of give us the particulars, if you will.
So our center is called Under the Magic Pine Tree. It is a small early learning center in Gardnerville, Nevada. We have just 3 classrooms. We're licensed for 48 children, and we take kids 9 months up until they go off to kindergarten. And currently, our enrollment is at 92%. We have a wait list in 2 of our classrooms, and we just have a couple of part-time spots in one of our classrooms. And by over the next couple of weeks, that should actually, our FTE should be at 100%. We'll be full.
Congratulations. That's an
Thank you.
amazing feeling.
Yes.
How are things flowing for you right now? Coming out, we're in February now, so the country is loosening up post pandemic. A lot of our clients are reporting big gains, recent gains of lots of enrollment coming, and staff is starting to loosen up. How are things going for you in Nevada?
We just actually this morning, the governor announced that he's going to immediately remove the mask mandate for indoor. However, the day before yesterday, or a couple of days ago, licensing sent out something saying you still have to wear a mask inside. So I think centers for right now are still going to be in masks. The employment side of it has picked up. We've been lucky since last spring. We have not been short staffed. We've been fully staffed. We are, because our enrollments are growing. We are hiring for part time right now, but we haven't really seen much trouble with it. But our enrollments have really, really increased since the first of the year.
Mhm.
We've increased a ton. So
Yeah, I think parents are finally
yeah,
getting back to feeling like everything is going to work out in an ECE environment, and it's safe.
yes.
It's safe to go back in the waters.
Right, right. And a lot of parents, a number of parents that we've had enroll with us over the last month have been, oh, dad was out caring for the kids while mom worked, or vice versa. And now they can both go back to work. So that's a lot of what's been happening.
That's great. Tell us about your background. How long have you been in this crazy industry of ours known as early childhood education?
Oh, so long. I have been in early childhood education since 1998. My husband and I met in high school. And not long out of high school, we had our first child. And I had him in an in home with a friend's mom at the time. And I just felt something weird was going on. And he'd come home, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's the same diaper I put him in this morning. So I put a little Sharpie pin
Uh-huh.
on the back of his diaper one day and came to pick him up. And he's 6 months old. He's alone in the front room crying. Nobody's in the house. They're all outside. And he had on the same diaper from 9 hours earlier.
Oh my God.
So I quit my job immediately, and I never took him back. And I told my mom, like, okay, I have no money. I have no childcare, but I'm not putting him in childcare because,
Mhm.
so she was like, you should look into opening an in-home daycare. You can do that, right? And I was like, really? So I looked into it, and at 19 years old, that's what I did. I started
Wow.
at 19 with a small in-home daycare, and quickly grew it. Within a year, I had grown it to the point where I started in an apartment, and my husband and we purchased our first home within a year. We're able to purchase a home and increased it to a large center, and then, or not center, but in home, and
Mhm.
then ran that for a number of years. Eventually, I went back to school. I took a break, went back to school, got my degree, and then went to go back into the workforce, and realized that I'd be making what I needed, because at this point now we have 5 children, and I would be making what I needed in order to pay for all of them to go to childcare. So reopened a large in-home in our home, and then in 2019 ended up purchasing Under the Magic Pine Tree in Nevada. So that's kind of
Cool.
my story.
And your capacity is 48 kids. So are you still tell us about the ages of your kids. You still have 5 kids, or did you even add to that?
I have 5 of my own. We
Okay.
were foster parents for a number of years, so if I
Right.
count all of them, I'll have many. But I have 5 of my own.
Wow.
My oldest will be 24 in a couple of weeks. My youngest just turned 13. So I
Okay.
have 3 in college, 1 in high school, and my youngest is in middle school.
Okay. Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
So you did that larger in-home business for quite a while.
For a long time, yeah,
Yeah.
for a number of years. And I actually learned about you in 2013, 2014.
Okay.
And I started to run it more like a center
Uh-huh.
because we had 450 square foot that was dedicated to that in our home.
Right.
So I started to run it like a center, which I think was great because it prepared me for when I made the jump.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. So, because I don't think you look old enough to have a 24-year-old, Christine.
That's what I
I
tell
really don't.
him. I'm like,
Yeah.
my age doesn't make me feel old. You make me feel old.
So, I wanna ask you about your home life. Tell us a little bit more. Yeah, so what's missing from this outline is 2 key questions, your home life and your fun fact. So,
Okay.
um, oopsie, the home what are you doing at home? What do you like to do for fun? Do you guys have any travel coming up? Just tell us a little bit more about what's going on at home.
So it probably is kind of weird for a lot of people because they don't have the same relationship. Me and my husband have been together. We've been together since we were 15, 16 years old. I literally spend every day with him. We work together. So, and I enjoy it. And he enjoys it, I think.
That's good.
So we like to travel. I like to get in our RV. Last year, when everything was kind of weird and we had been homeschooling, so when everything was weird with the pandemic, we just jumped in the RV and I worked from the RV for 5 weeks. And we took the kids and traveled around through the western states. And we got to go see the arches and Colorado and a bunch of different other places. And then whenever we have mastermind meetings with the academy, we just love to travel. So we always make what can we do? Like if the academy is in Florida, what can we do in Florida? Or if the academy's in Atlanta, what else can we do in Atlanta? And we try to piggyback on it.
Yeah.
We like to travel. So
Yeah, that's what makes the academy meetings really fun, is that if you can extend them and then have your business pay for some fun,
yeah,
well, why not? That's a
right,
huge win-win, right?
right.
So, what is something about you that not a lot of people know? What we affectionately refer to as the podcast fun fact.
The fun fact. So, my fun fact is I used to raise and show champion Great Danes. I
Wow.
had Canadian champions, international champions, and one of my Great Danes, her name is Shine. She is the spokes dog for Pergo Flooring. So if you watch Pergo Flooring's commercials or you go to Home Depot and you see this beautiful black and white big Great Dane on their packaging for Pergo Flooring, that's my dog. Yeah, so that's my fun fact.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah.
I had a my sister had a Great Dane, and those are amazing dogs.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah,
sweethearts.
they're the best dogs. I don't have any currently. My last one passed away a number of years ago, and I
Mhm.
stopped showing when we purchased the center because it took more time. So I haven't had any in a number of years, but eventually one day I'll be having another one because
Yeah,
they're the best.
cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. It reminds me of that movie Best in Show,
Yes.
which is a hilarious movie. I don't know
Yes, it
if you
is.
s but yeah, so if you guys haven't seen
There are
that, it's good.
some there's a little a little bit of reality to some of that. You're like
Yeah,
watching the movie and I go, "Oh, I know somebody like that."
exactly.
Yeah.
Some characters.
Yes.
So, tell us a little bit more about Under the Magic Pine Tree in terms of, you bought it in 2019,
Mhm.
and what are some things that set it apart in the community that are its special sauce, if you will?
So when I took it over, it was pretty run down, and it was mostly just babysitting. I joke, but it was actually said to me. It was when I took over. They said, "We just keep the kids alive here." So for me,
Whoa.
for me, that is not good enough. So we have really turned it around into an early learning facility. I think what sets us apart is we have really high expectations of ourselves. And so that kind of trickles down. One of our core values is quality. And so we have a high quality program. The center is very clean. It would be like I always tell my staff, like, if you go home and you clean your house, that's what we want here for the children. So our center is very clean. We
Mhm.
have parent communication is a huge thing, especially right now with the pandemic and not being able to have people into the center. So we have a parent communication app that our teachers use. And so it doesn't matter what age you are, if you're in the infant toddler classroom, the preschool, or the pre-K, we have a parent communication app, and the teachers log all of their activities. They can send videos, which is great. They'll do science experiments and send videos, or music and movement, and it all gets put in all day long. Parents can set it up so that they get a push notification on their phone as it's entered, or they just, well, also they get, after they check out at the end of the day, an email, and the whole daily report is sent to them. So that's huge. They're able to message their teachers. Parents can message their teachers back and forth. And so that's been a big thing. A lot of people that come to our center say, like, nobody else has this. This is why we're coming here.
So I love that, and parents love that.
Yeah.
That strengthens the loyalty in your
Hmm.
program for sure, and also can cut down on customer satisfaction issues,
Right.
and also cut down on the number of people calling the school because they can
Hmm.
communicate through
They
the
can
app.
just message.
I love
Yeah.
that. What kind of curriculum do you use? Just curious about the whole learning piece.
We use, I've followed Becky Bailey for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I'm wholeheartedly believe in the whole conscious discipline approach.
Yeah.
So we use Frog Street curriculum,
Yeah.
and we start it with our infant toddlers, and it goes all the way through our pre-K program. And we use a bilingual. So our toddlers are learning, our teachers in our toddler program actually are bilingual teachers. So they're learning Spanish. They also, all of our classrooms learn ASL, and it's all incorporated in with our Frog Street curriculum.
Mhm. Well, that's very, very cool. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Becky Bailey as well and conscious
Mhm.
discipline. And we're actually going to have a session with a speaker that is a conscious discipline certified person at the upcoming summit this fall in Nashville. So definitely
Fantastic.
more about that to come. That's a sneak peek, y'all. Let's talk a little bit about your mindset. So we've gone through it. We've been through the ringer. Uh, and our industry, perhaps more than, I mean, I would definitely say more than most, has been very, very difficult to stay alive during COVID and keep a positive mindset with all of the staffing shortages and health related issues and concerns and COVID outbreaks in the classroom and just everything. So, how are you feeling? How's your energy level and how's your mindset doing?
I'm a positive person anyways. I don't know. I just always see that cup half full. And I think having somebody to lean on, with the academy, I have my, accountability buddy. And so we can text each other or whatnot. I think that right now I'm in a good space. I'm looking forward to where we're heading. I see that things are changing. I know that I'm going to pivot as things come at us, and I just, I'm just in a really good space.
That's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
sure that you went through peaks and valleys like all of
Yes.
us.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you later about resources and if you want to give any resources for also things that you've been reading or listening to that have kept you in a positive place. But I'm like you, I'm an optimist by heart, by nature. So even though when the world has us down for the moment, we're not going to stay down for long,
Mm-mm.
right?
Nope. Nope.
You last year competed in the childcare rockstar contest in
Yes.
Vegas, and you were chosen as a finalist. You had an amazing entry and an incredible video, and you got to go on stage in front of 900 people
Mhm.
and share your story.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what that was like. Were you nervous? Were you fearful? Were you feeling confident? Like, just how was the overall experience, and what kind of is there emotional roller coaster you went through, or just share anything about it that you want to?
Yeah. So was a little nervous to begin with. Actually, I should start from the beginning. When I applied, my unique brilliance is not writing copy. In fact, I hate it so much that my heart starts palpitating and I get really anxious. And then it's almost like when you get hangry.
Yeah.
That's me. Okay. So as
Wow.
I move through, I know that about myself. I need to source that out. But for this, I had to do it myself. So that was the most stressful part for me, was actually having to put this video together and create the script for the video.
Right.
Um, but I was nervous about being on stage. I had told you at the summit when I ran into you, I had had this reoccurring nightmare for like 2 nights before I went on stage, that I was going to get up there, and we had had a tragedy in our town with somebody who had been with the center a long time, and I had known personally. And I felt like I was going to get up there and she was part of my presentation, and that I might actually break down and cry and go over my allotted time, and that you guys were going to take the cane and like rip me off stage. So that was that was a little bit of my nervousness. But when I got up there, it was completely different. Actually,
Mm.
I felt really comfortable. This was the best experience because it taught me something about myself. So when I got up there and shared my story, I learned that I really enjoyed public speaking. I learned that sharing my story with others and them coming to me and saying, "Oh, that I had something like that happen too." And, you know, just inspiring other people, that was something that I didn't really know that I loved, and I found out I loved it. So it didn't matter to me that if I was going to win or lose or what was going to happen, because I gained more by doing that experience and learning something really important about myself I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a win in and of itself.
Yes. Yeah.
Really great.
So I loved it. It was great, and met so many people that I didn't know I needed to meet
Yes.
after the fact.
Yes. So that is a huge writer downer as well, Christine, because what came back to you as a result of putting yourself out there was in the multiples of goodness. So
Yes.
that's awesome, because you probably made connections and friendships and networked with people just because you were willing to get out of your comfort zone and put yourself up there. Um, so would you recommend the experience? This is a trick question, but would you recommend the experience to folks who are thinking about going for Rockstar in 2022?
Yes. Yes. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you win or lose. You're going to
Yeah,
win. You're going to come out a winner either way. It doesn't matter
right.
what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got some cash. You didn't win, but you were a runner up and you did amazing. And you got some cash as a thank you. I'm really glad that you learned things about yourself and also had the clarity about yourself that you were like, well, I really hate doing this piece of it, but I'm going to force myself to do it. And
Mhm.
kind of getting through that also can create more confidence in
Right.
around that as well. Because for future, if you had to write copy, you might be like, well, let me dive into it, because you were able to be the top three of all the contestants that went for Rockstar. You were one of the three finalists, so you obviously did an amazing job.
Mhm.
So give yourself a pat on the back,
Definitely.
'cause you did
Yes.
great. Awesome, awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. And I loved hearing your story. I find it very inspiring, especially with how you started, having realized what was happening in a lower quality situation with your baby with the diaper story in the pen. I mean, that's like unconscionable. I'm sure everybody listening to this podcast, when you said that, gasped. There was a collective
Mhm.
gasp that just
I
happened
know. I
worldwide.
know. I know. I know. It was, and being only 19, like I was like,
Yeah,
I don't know what to do. What do I do? You know?
right.
So yeah.
Yeah. So you made a difference. You're making a huge difference in your community, especially for those 48 kids. So, especially, and of course, the 5 that you have, and then all of the foster kids. So, let's talk a minute about the fostering, because I mean, that's a special human that you have 5 of your own and you're fostering, and then you have a childcare center and you're impacting all these kids. So, um, you know, what did you, what was your inspiration for doing foster care, and how did you feel about that? Like, how long did you do the journey, and anything that you want to share about it? I know it's a very intensely personal journey for most foster parents, but I find it to be extremely inspirational for kids that need that.
For me, my parents were foster parents. I had a foster brother when I was little, like
Okay.
until I was maybe 3 or 4. But for me, it was a couple of children that were in my care who ended up going into the foster system. And I was like, absolutely not. Those are just as much my babies
Hmm.
as they are hers. So that's how we kind of got started. Was we had 2 children who were put into the foster care system. And so we ended up getting licensed so that they could come somewhere where they were comfortable and they knew people, and it wouldn't be scary, to go to somebody else's house that you've never met before. You don't know them. You don't know their expectations. You don't know what's going on because you're 6 months old and 4 years old. And so that's kind of how we got started with that. We did it for, oh my goodness, about 9 years.
Wow.
And at one point there was a couple of times where we were like, we might end up just adopting before we had our last 2. That was something that we had looked at doing. But yeah, that was kind of where it came from. Was I've always been the provider that went above and beyond for those that needed it. So a lot of my business, especially in the early years, were with what was called Havens of Hope. The people the moms that would come out of that were in recovery and trying to get back. They maybe were in recovery or domestic abuse or something. And so they were coming out of that situation and trying to get back on their feet. And so the resource and referral where I lived in California knew to refer those to me, because those were the clients that I always took. And a lot of times the other providers wouldn't take them because it's a little turmoil for the children, for
Yeah.
the parents, and their subsidy. And a lot of people don't like subsidy. And
Mhm.
so that was kind of where I got that beginning, because I like to see growth in people and I like to help with the growth of people. And so that's kind of where that started.
I
So
love that. That's very, very cool. And I'm sure that your teachers also have learned that about you as a leader, that you stand for the growth of others,
mhm.
and they're drawn to you as a leader in that. There's no doubt in my mind that you've helped teachers that have been working for you that need a little lift up, they need a little assistance, they need a little love, they need, some TLC, that you've been that
Mhm.
person for them in their lives. So it's just really, really cool. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just very grateful to know you. You're you're a special human. Can I just say that?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I get to talk to a lot of special humans on this podcast.
You
So,
do.
um, your episode is following Andre Norman's, so
Oh my
it's
goodness,
good. I
really?
know. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, when we were at the summit and we got to meet him,
Uh-huh.
my husband will kill me. He actually brought my husband to tears. He was so touched by Andre's
Really?
presentation. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Andre is amazing. And yeah, actually, I think Lauren Starnes wrote a book, and she's in the middle of you too. But he's right there, and you're following in his footsteps of being
Nice.
an impact maker. So you're amazing. If you had to do it all over again, what is the one thing that you would do differently?
The $20 million question. So I guess another fun fact, I tried to do this when I was 20, when about a year and a half after I opened my in-home, we thought, you know what, we're going to do a center. We're going to go purchase a building, because it was back in the time when they were just handing out loans like crazy. And here I am, stupid 20-year-old me, I'm like, I'll get a loan, I'll buy a building. But back then I just didn't have that confidence in
Right.
knowing what I didn't know, basically. And so it got to a point where, things weren't quite going exactly the way I wanted with the deal. And I got nervous, and I kind of backed away from it, and then spent the next 20 years as an in-home provider instead. So
Mhm.
if I were to go back, um, I would have done it earlier, because I have so many things, great things that I want to accomplish, that I wish I would have accomplished earlier in life. Wish I would have found you earlier in life, and just been able to make that happen. And not that I'm not gonna not meet my goals and my dreams. I just wish I
Right.
would have started earlier. So
Yeah. I get that. Yeah.
yeah.
What are you loving about being in the Childcare Success Academy?
What am
Yes.
I not loving? Okay. I I absolutely love being in this academy. I've met so many wonderful people that have opened so many different doors. I I met somebody in the academy, a couple from Utah, who started their own childcare association, which then led to me going, my state does not have the support for owners and providers that I feel it should have. I'm going to start a childcare association. And so that opened
Wow.
a door. And actually, in November, I started the Nevada Childcare Association.
Uh,
Um, right after the summit, I met with Jody and her husband, and
yep.
learned about how they got it started in Utah. And I said, well, I could do this. So I started one. um, the mastermind meetings, you just stuff you don't get other places. I go all the time. We have what's called Nevada Registry here in Nevada. And it's the classes that you take for professional development, and they offer courses and that kind of thing. And so you go to those and you meet other people there, but it's not the same as in the academy. In the academy, everybody's there for everybody,
Yeah.
and so there's just a phenomenal amount of knowledge, and everybody wants to share that knowledge, and everybody wants to see each other succeed. And so
Yes.
that's my favorite part.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I think that is the thing that really sets it apart from other groups, associations in our field, is that everyone is there for each other and everyone is actually lifting each other up,
Yes.
which is hard to find,
Hmm.
I feel. So I'm so glad that you took the model of the Zabriskis and in
Yes.
Utah, and you went to Nevada and you started a childcare association, and we could do a whole nother podcast about that.
Yeah.
Being the founder of the Nevada Childcare Association, what's been your biggest lesson about that? Any kind of things you've learned or things you would do differently, or just how's it going?
Um, we're in the forming stage. We just
Mhm.
got the website up and going. We have some partnerships with some other ECE industry leaders that we're going to be able to bring on, some speakers that are already lined up for the year for just our
Cool.
membership.
Mhm.
Um, so it's a big project.
Yeah, it's big. It's
It
big.
is a big project, but advocacy is really, I mean, just even as far back as being a foster parent, like, advocacy has always been something where I have been passionate about. And so I think it's important that we have our seat at the table. I don't think that in our area, in our state, I would ask for resources and they would say, oh, we don't have that here. And I came from a different state. I didn't start in Nevada.
Mhm.
So I was like, you don't have that here? Well, so I just created it so that we did have it. And
Right.
we've been getting a lot of great feedback. Lots of providers are like, oh, finally, we need this. So it's really starting to take off. Yeah.
Well done, Christine McNally. I am very proud of you for that. That's amazing. This is kind of, maybe self-serving question too, because you did compete in childcare rockstar. So I consider you to be a rock star. But how do you define? I mean, looking at maybe looking at your team or looking at the people that you've made friends with in this industry, how do you define a childcare rock star?
I think everybody is a childcare rock star. If you're in this industry, you're probably a childcare rock star. I mean, every one of my team members, from my assistants to my leads to my director, they're all my cook, they're all rock stars. I mean, this is a hard industry. You give and give and give and give and give, and I just think if you're inspiring people every day. It doesn't matter if you're, an aide in a classroom and you're teaching a child to count their blocks, or you're the director and you're coaching staff to live their biggest dream, or you're me and you're trying to create an empire and masterminding with others. I think that we're all rock stars, actually. I don't think that there's a way to actually define it. I think everybody in this industry is one.
Nice. I like that. Would you like to share any books or resources that have helped you along your journey? Any favorites?
Yes. Yeah, I have so many. Fun fact again, I
Yes.
read almost every single book that comes up in any of our academy meetings or in your podcasts or anything.
Mhm.
I usually write them down. If I have not read them yet, they're on my bookshelf over there. So I've read a lot. My favorites, The Slight Edge was life-changing for me.
Mhm.
That was the first book I read when I joined the academy. Coach Brian told me, you need to read this book.
Yep.
And so I read that book, and actually my husband is just reading that book now because he, like I told everybody at the Rockstar event, he graduated law school and is opening his own practice. And so I have him reading that book right now too, and he's loving it too. Anything by Simon Sinek.
Yes.
I could listen to him forever. He's a great storyteller. He's inspirational, really motivating. I love his podcast. I think it's called A Little Bit of Optimism.
Mhm.
Love his podcast.
Yeah.
And then my other one would be, me and my husband have started listening. We listen to Audible when we go back and forth between the center, because I moved closer to my center, but I'm still an hour and a half away. So when we drive, we've been listening to a lot of CEOs, top CEOs. And I
Mhm.
think my favorite is Onward with Howard Schultz.
Oh, cool.
I related to a lot of what he told in his story. And I saw a lot of the way that he does his thinking, his way of running business, his way of treating people and growing people was a lot of my ideologies too. So I connected with that. I thought that was an excellent book.
Nice. Very, very cool. And he's the founder of Starbucks.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Cool. And The Slight Edge is by Jeff Olson.
Yes.
And I love Leaders Eat Last, in particular by Simon, but anything.
Yes.
You're right.
Anything. TED Talks,
Oh my
podcasts,
God.
whatever.
Just bring it.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you were dialed in when we had him at our summit.
Yes. I
That
wish
was
we had been
pretty
in
cool.
person,
I know.
but it was great. Actually, when that happened, I was on our 5-week road trip. So I got to watch that from my RV.
Oh, nice.
I know. It was great.
That was really, really a special moment for me. Cool. Well, this has been an incredible episode, getting to meet you and know you better, Christine. And I have loved having you in our academy. I've loved having you on stage with me in Rockstar last year. Any final thoughts for our audience as we close?
Oh, so much pressure. I don't know. Like I said, I think you're all are rock stars. If you're listening to this, you're probably in childcare, and you guys are all rock stars, and we're almost on the other end of this now.
Yeah.
So, hang in there. We're all in there
Yes.
together, and lean on each other. Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today here at Childcare Rockstar Radio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. It's been great to get to know you better, Ms. McNally, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your week and weekend. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
And
you too.
Thanks again so much. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys are so busy. We know that your life, it can be extremely hectic. So thanks for sharing just a little piece of that with us here on the podcast. We'll see you all next time.